There's a number that keeps coming up in personal finance conversations across the UK. Not £100,000, not £1,000,000, not even £50,000. £20,000. And when you first hear it, you might think, that is not that much. That is not a life-changing amount of money. That is not retire early money, or buy a house outright money, or never worry again money. And you would be right. On its own, as a raw number sitting in a bank account, £20,000 is not dramatic. But here's what I want to show you today. £20,000 is not just a number. In the UK specifically, with our tax system, our property market, our savings vehicles, and our benefit structure, £20,000 is a threshold, and crossing it changes things in ways that are genuinely difficult to explain until you have been there. Today, we are going to go through exactly why. We are using real HMRC data, real ONS figures, and real numbers from the UK financial system to show you precisely what changes and why the moment you cross this particular line. This is not motivation content. This is not a hype video. This is an honest explanation of why £20,000 specifically is the number that matters more than almost any other in early financial life in the UK. Let's get into it. Before we get to what changes at £20,000, let us ground ourselves in where most people in the UK actually are. According to the most recent ONS Wealth and Assets Survey, the median financial wealth of British adults, meaning savings, cash, and investments outside of property and pensions, is approximately £7,000. £7,000. That is the middle of the pack. Half of British adults have less than that in accessible savings. The same ONS data shows that approximately 1 in 3 British adults has less than £1,000 in savings, and around 11 million people in the UK have essentially no savings buffer at all, according to data from the Money and Pension Service. This is the starting point for most people, and it explains why going from zero to £20,000 is not just a financial shift, it's a psychological and structural one. The journey from zero to £20,000 is the hardest part of the entire wealth-building process. Not because the numbers are largest, they are not, but because the early stages feel slow, the sacrifices feel real, and the compounding has not yet kicked in enough to feel motivating. But when you get there, when you actually reach £20,000, here's what changes. The first thing that changes is the most fundamental. According to ONS expenditure data, the average UK household spends approximately £2,800 to £3,200 a month on essential costs: housing, food, transport, energy, and bills. Financial advisors consistently recommend holding 3 to 6 months of essential expenses as an emergency fund. That means a properly funded emergency fund for the average British household sits between £8,400 and £19,200. Do you see what just happened there? £20,000 covers the upper end of a fully funded emergency fund for the average UK household. For a single person with lower essential costs, somewhere around £1,600 to £1,800 a month, £20,000 represents nearly 12 months of essential expenses. This is not a trivial thing. This is the difference between a financial shock being an inconvenience and being a catastrophe. A boiler that breaks down, a car that needs replacing, a job loss, a period of ill health. These events happen to everyone eventually. The difference between having £20,000 and having £2,000 when they do is not just financial. It is the difference between handling a difficult situation calmly and being pushed into debt, arrears, or genuine hardship. According to the Money and Pension Service, 43% of British adults say they could not cover an unexpected expense of £300 without borrowing. £300. When you have £20,000 sitting in your savings account, a £300 unexpected expense is nothing. It is a footnote. That shift in financial resilience is profound and immediate. Here is where UK-specific rules make £20,000 genuinely special in a way that applies almost nowhere else in the world. The Lifetime ISA, or LISA, allows you to save up to £4,000 per year towards either a first home or retirement. For every pound you save, the government adds 25 pence, up to £1,000 per year in free government money. Now here is the connection to £20,000 that most people miss. If you have £20,000 saved and you're a first-time buyer aged between 18 and 39, you can deploy up to £16,000 of that into a lifetime ISA over 4 years and collect up to £4,000 in government bonuses on top. But it goes further. The ISA allowance in the UK for 2025 to 2026 is £20,000 per year, according to HMRC. The annual ISA allowance and the milestone number are not a coincidence. They are directly linked. Having £20,000 means you can fully fund 1 year's ISA allowance in a single move. That entire sum shielded from income tax, capital gains tax, and dividend tax immediately begins working for you in a tax-advantaged environment. For someone who has been slowly building savings in a standard account, the moment they hit £20,000 and move it into an ISA, or stocks and shares ISA, represents a genuine structural upgrade in how efficiently their money works. Before £20,000, you are saving. After £20,000 deployed into an ISA, you are investing tax-free. That is a different game entirely.
This one is psychological as much as financial, but the numbers back it up. According to the Bank of England and FCA consumer credit data, the average interest rate on credit card debt in the UK sits at approximately 21 to 24% annually. Personal loans average around 7 to 9%. Buy now, pay later products, increasingly common, often carry rates of 20 to 30% if payments are missed. When you have no savings buffer, debt is a survival tool. The car breaks down and you put it on a credit card because there is no alternative. The boiler fails and you take out a loan because you have no choice. Emergency debt at 21% interest becomes a normal part of life. When you have £20,000 in savings, debt becomes a choice rather than a necessity. You never need to reach for a credit card in an emergency again. And that shift from debt as necessity to debt as choice fundamentally changes your relationship with money. The ONS data shows that households with meaningful savings buffers carry significantly lower levels of high-interest consumer debt. This is not coincidence, it is causation. The savings buffer prevents the emergency borrowing that traps people in cycles of high-interest debt. Reaching £20,000 does not just give you savings, it protects you from the debt that would otherwise erode everything you are trying to build. For most people in the UK, saving a house deposit feels abstract for a very long time. It is a goal that exists somewhere in the future, but never feels close enough to plan around concretely. £20,000 changes that. According to land registry data, the average UK house price, excluding London, sits at approximately £240,000 to £260,000. A 5% deposit on a £240,000 property is £12,000. A 10% deposit on a £200,000 property is £20,000. With £20,000 in savings, you're at or beyond the minimum deposit threshold for a significant proportion of the UK housing market, particularly across the north of England, the Midlands, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And critically, with £20,000, you're within striking distance of a 10% deposit on properties up to £200,000. The difference between a 5% and 10% deposit is not just the extra money, it is access to significantly better mortgage rates. According to Bank of England mortgage data, the difference between a 95% and 90% loan-to-value mortgage can be 0.5% to 1% on the interest rate, which over a 25-year mortgage translates to £15,000 to £30,000 in interest savings. Furthermore, combined with a lifetime ISA, someone with £20,000 in total savings can have £16,000 in a LISA, earning a 25% government bonus and £4,000 in reserve. By the time the LISA has been running for a year, the government has added £1,000, bringing the total towards £21,000 without earning a single penny of additional income. The house deposit shifts from a vague future goal to a concrete near-term reality. That shift changes how you plan, how you save, and how you think about your financial future.
This is the one that people who have crossed the £20,000 threshold describe most consistently, and it is the hardest to explain to someone who has not experienced it yet. Compounding is invisible at low balances. If you have £1,000 in a savings account earning 4% interest, you earn £40 a year. You barely notice it. If you have £1,000 invested in a stocks and shares ISA and the market returns 7% in a year, you have made £70. Still barely noticeable. But at £20,000, the numbers start to become meaningful. £20,000 at 4% interest in a cash ISA generates £800 a year in interest. That is £66 a month appearing in your account without any effort. £20,000 invested in a stocks and shares ISA at a historical average of 7% generates approximately £1,400 in the first year. That is over £100 a month of growth for money you have already saved. For the first time, your money is making a meaningful contribution alongside your regular savings contributions. You are no longer the only one building your wealth. Your existing pot has started doing some of the work for you. This is the moment compounding stops being a concept and starts being something you can actually see and feel. And psychologically, that changes everything about your motivation and your belief that long-term wealth building is real and possible for you. This is the one that catches people by surprise, and it is critically important to understand. Under the UK benefits system, specifically universal credit, there is a capital limit that affects what support you can receive. According to HMRC and DWP rules, if you have savings or capital above £6,000, your universal credit payments begin to be reduced. For every £250 of savings above £6,000, £4.35 per month is deducted from your award. If your savings exceeds £16,000, you are completely ineligible for universal credit, regardless of your income or circumstances. Now, this sounds like bad news, but here's the important reframe. If you have £20,000 in savings, you do not need universal credit as a safety net. That is exactly what the £20,000 emergency fund is for. Your own savings have replaced the state safety net with something more reliable, more immediate, and completely within your control. The shift from state dependency to self-sufficiency is one of the most significant and least discussed changes that comes with crossing this threshold.
There is something that happens beyond all the specific financial mechanisms we have discussed, and it is perhaps the most important change of all. Options. With less than £5,000 in savings, your options in almost every area of life are constrained. You cannot leave a job without immediately needing another one. You cannot handle a housing crisis, a landlord selling up, a necessary move without extreme stress. You cannot take a calculated risk on a career change, a business idea, or an investment opportunity. You are financially reactive, responding to events rather than directing them. At £20,000, that changes. You have 6 to 12 months of runway if you need to leave a job and find a better one. You have the ability to weather a housing disruption without panic. You have the capital to consider starting something, a side business, a freelance career, an investment, without betting everything on it succeeding. According to ONS data on financial well-being, the single strongest predictor of reported financial well-being among British adults is not income level. It is the presence of a meaningful savings buffer. People with savings report significantly higher levels of financial confidence, lower financial anxiety, and greater life satisfaction than people on identical incomes with no savings. £20,000 does not buy you freedom, but it buys you options, and in practical terms, options are freedom. Let us be honest about the timeline, because this matters. Based on HMRC take-home pay data and ONS savings rate figures, here is roughly how long it takes to reach £20,000 at different salary levels and savings rates. Salary, £25,000.
Monthly take-home, £1,793. 10% saved, £179 per month, 8.5 years. 20% saved, £359 per month, 4.5 years. 30% saved, £538 per month, 3 years. Salary, £35,000. Monthly take-home, £2,394. 10% saved, £239 per month, 6.5 years. 20% saved, £479 per month, 3.5 years. 30% saved, £718 per month, 2.5 years. Salary, £50,000. Monthly take-home, £3,291. 10% saved, £329 per month, 5 years. 20% saved, £658 per month, 2.5 years. 30% saved, £987 per month, 1.5 years. A few things stand out from this table. On £25,000 saving 10%, it takes over 8 years to reach £20,000. That is a long time and explains why so many people on lower incomes feel like they are making no progress. When you reach £20,000, here is exactly what to do with it. Step 1. Protect the base. Keep a minimum of £3,000 to £5,000 in an easy-access cash savings account, your true emergency fund. This money should never be invested. It needs to be accessible within 24 hours. According to Bank of England data, the best easy-access savings rates in the UK currently sit around 4% to 4.5%. Use one of those accounts. Step 2. Maximize the ISA. The remaining £15,000 to £17,000 should go into your ISA allowance immediately. If you are a first-time buyer aged 18 to 39, up to £4,000 of that into a lifetime ISA for the government bonus. The rest into a stocks and shares ISA in a low-cost global index fund. Step 3. Do not inflate your lifestyle. This is the trap that catches most people when they first hit a savings milestone. The temptation to reward yourself, a holiday, a new car, upgraded rent, is real and understandable. But lifestyle inflation at the £20,000 milestone is the single most common reason people reach it and then slide back below it within 12 months. Step 4. Set the next target. The journey from £20,000 to £50,000 is faster than the journey from £0 to £20,000 because you now have compounding working alongside you. Set the next milestone and keep the momentum going. So there you have it. 7 specific reasons why everything changes after you save £20,000 in the UK, backed by real HMRC data, ONS figures, and the actual mechanics of the British financial system. The emergency fund that replaces state dependency, the ISA allowance unlocked, the debt cycle broken, the house deposit made real, the compounding made visible, the options multiplied. £20,000 is not the destination. It is the point where the journey genuinely begins to accelerate. If this video gave you clarity or motivation, give it a like and subscribe for more honest UK money content every single week. Drop a comment below. Are you on the journey to £20,000 right now, or have you already crossed it? I read every single one. Take care of your money, and I will see you in the next one.